Hi, and welcome to the latest episode of the Thrive Alcohol Free podcast. I'm so pleased you are here, and I hope you've had the most fabulous week. I am on a high, really. So, I was a judge on the World Alcohol Free Awards this week on Monday, and it was an amazing experience. It was so lovely to be invited back to judge. I would judge last year as well. So this year was amazing again to be there. And thanks to Chris and Chrissy, the founders, for inviting me to participate. And I was just amazed when I think about where the alcohol-free industry was and where it is now. When I stopped drinking over 4 years ago, there weren't many mainstream products. And the fact I stumbled across an amazing one was pretty incredible at the time. And that really is what encouraged me to stop for more than the 21 days that I originally planned on stopping for. So it was a real game changer for me. Alcohol-free drinks would always be something that will be in my heart. And I became obsessed with trying the different drinks, making mocktails, just really exploring that market. So this year in the World Alcohol-Free Awards, which is the largest awards in the world, we had nearly 600 products enter the competition, which is amazing. And those products are from 30 countries, which really is incredible. So wherever you are in the world, there is bound to be an alcohol-free option for you. And to be one of the 24 judges was a real honor. Such a fabulous experience. And I tasted 54 products in the day, which was incredible. And I tried sparkling wines, teas, rosés, mulled wine, vodka styles, which was really interesting. There haven't been very many vodka alternatives. And I also judged adult sodas and hot water. So I'm excited for the results. The results will be out in the next couple of months, and it'll be good to see what they are. Feel free to head to the WAFA website or get in touch with me. And for me, with my clients, it's something I suggest that they have as part of their alcohol-free toolkit. So alcohol-free drinks is just one element, and there are lots of other elements. If you are interested in learning what an alcohol-free toolkit is, how to build one, and learning tools that will help you really enjoy a 21-day break, there's still time to join the 21-day challenge. Our second call happens tonight, and you'll get daily emails, inspiration. You'll get various tools, techniques. We get journal prompts, actions to take, and much more. I'm also excited to let you know about a free masterclass on the 26th of March 2025. It's going to be all about how to break up with decades of chasing external validation and the 3 ways to become the powerful leader you were meant to be. I absolutely believe that it's time to stop seeking permission and start trusting yourself. And for so long, I spent years climbing the corporate ladder, fitting myself into boxes so that I can get the next promotion, shutting off my inner voice so that I could be known as a top leader in my field. And I was taught to do what looked good on paper and to make my parents proud and to always get good grades. And I think I kept chasing external validation from teachers, bosses, peers as I grew in my career while completely shutting down my inner guidance. I ditched drinking in 2020 and I've learned so much since then, and I want to share it with you. You may be thinking that you've worked your way up, you've played by the rules and achieved success. So why does it still feel like something's missing? So I want that to end now. I'd love to invite you to come to the masterclass if you are an ambitious woman who is done with seeking validation from others and is ready to claim your confidence, passion, and purpose on your own terms. The free masterclass is going to be amazing, and you're going to learn the hidden costs of seeking external validation from others, the good girl persona that was instilled in us, the 3 powerful shifts that will help you step into true, authentic leadership without trying so hard, and how to break free from old conditioning. This is going to be a great masterclass, and I can't wait to see you there. I will put the link below. Okay, so today's guest, I'm really excited about. It's my husband, Nicholas. So if you have been following the podcast for a while, You may have seen that Nicholas, my husband, was my second episode. So the first episode's all about me and my story, and then the second episode was with Nicholas, and we talk about the fact that I stopped drinking and how that was for him because he was still drinking, and then how 2 years later, it was just after my second year of being alcohol free, that he then decided to stop. And that was that. And it's been a fascinating time. And so we thought it might be nice to just reconvene and talk a bit about where we are now. And hopefully you'll find this episode quite inspiring, quite interesting. And yeah, it was just such fun to be able to do that with my husband. So I hope you enjoy the episode. So welcome, Nicholas. Thank you for joining me on the podcast.
That's
How
a
are you?
pleasure. I'm very well, thank you. Long time no see, my dear wife.
Well, actually, yeah, that's fair because I'm in the UK and you're in Marrakech at the moment, but you'll be here tomorrow. So that's very exciting. So, for those of you who might not have heard episode 2 of the podcast, it's been a while since my husband was on. Nicholas is my husband of, gosh, 17 years.
Lordy.
Married in January. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, but we've been together longer than that. So we met in Spain in October. We're 25 years in October, which is incredible. I can't quite believe that. So my husband's kindly agreed to do another episode. And as I mentioned, he was on episode 2, which was September 2023.
Was.
And so we thought we'd do a bit of an update. So I'm delighted that he's agreed to come on again and we can have a bit of a chat. And yeah, I'll go into what we'll cover, but maybe before we start, for people that might not have listened to episode 2, why don't you introduce yourself, hubby?
That's very, very kind of you. I'm Nicholas. I'm Dupe's husband, and I'm a leadership consultant. I run my company, Eagle Transformational Coaching, where we help public sector and business and charities with leadership restructure and leadership effectivity, making leaders and those wanting to become leaders effective in their leadership.
Wonderful, wonderful. So maybe we'll explain. So I'm in the UK at the moment, as I said, and Nicholas is in Marrakech. And I left Marrakech on Saturday. It's now Tuesday. And that was because I was judging the World Alcohol Free Awards yesterday. So this is going to be hot off the press. It comes out Thursday, and you'll be back in the UK then. So that's fun. And you might be thinking, well, hold on a minute. Why is he in Marrakech and why are you in the UK? And if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you'll know that I am a wellbeing and transformational coach who specializes in the alcohol-free lifestyle. And I also do human design. And what I really help my clients with is helping them to gain clarity, confidence, energy, passion, and purpose so that they can create the dreamiest life that they're destined for. And so I thought, well, I talk about this all the time, but maybe we should get on to have a podcast about it because I feel that we have created the dreamiest life that we were destined for, and everyone's life is different, and everyone's definition of a dreamiest life is different, and everyone's definition of success is different. So I don't want you to listen to this and think, oh, well, look at them. I just want to give an example of what life could look like. And Nicholas decided to stop drinking 2 years after I stopped drinking. And I'm convinced that by both of us stopping drinking, we then became a lot more clear. We then found a lot more confidence in ourselves and what we wanted and wanted to do. We also had a lot more energy in terms of not feeling rough the next day or feeling like life was dwindling away, and we weren't really in control. We were just on the treadmill doing what everyone else did and thinking that was the way life should be. We were choosing to stay in certain situations, in certain workplaces, rather than changing them, because I think when you drink, you can find you have a bit of a victim mentality, or you don't allow yourself to take on things properly because you're potentially numbing out the negative emotions, the negative things that you're feeling, and thinking that actually alcohol is going to help you. And so I'd like to think that we have actually gained that confidence, gained the clarity, and then the energy. And from there, we've been able to find our passions, start living our passions, and discover our purpose as well, which has led us to create the dreamiest life that we are destined for. As we've made a lot of choices over the past couple of years, which has led us to become digital nomads. So we are able to work and travel when we want. We have that freedom from where we want. And I just want to be clear in terms of the definition of the digital nomad, because a lot of people think you have to be constantly on the move, constantly moving from one place to another. You spend 2 weeks here or 3 weeks there, and you can again define whatever you want as a digital nomad. And for us, what we've discovered is it means that we just have the freedom to do what we want to do, where we want to do it, and work from wherever we want to work from. And that's the life we have created. And we've chosen to do that. And we've changed things where we've thought, actually, this is no longer serving us and this isn't working for us. And we want to do something different. And we don't want to potentially do what everyone else is doing. So being a bit uncommon. And so I thought it would be fun to have a bit of a conversation about that and show you what's possible, because I was on a call with someone earlier and they were basically saying to me, oh my goodness, this was someone I worked with maybe 5, 6 years ago. And she was saying to me, I am just so in awe of what you've done. And it's amazing. It's something I would love to do. I'd love to speak to my husband about this because it's something I'd love to do. But we get so fixated on earning a salary, being in a cushy job, having money come in every month, knowing exactly where it's coming from, even though we're probably not living the way we want to live. And I said to her, well, it's because the salary is a drug. And I worked in an investment bank for, well, I did 2 stints in investment banks, but in the investment bank, people were literally waiting for their bonuses. And so you get a bonus once a year. So you're literally living for the bonus and you can't do anything else, because once you get to a certain point of the year, it makes no sense to move on because you'll miss out on the bonus and you won't necessarily get it from the next place. And if you do get a job, people would always put their bonus in and say, I'll take the job based on you honoring the bonus that I would have got somewhere else. And so it becomes this vicious cycle. Month on month, we're waiting for this paycheck to come in. And then year on year, you're waiting for a bonus. And before you know it, 40, 50 years has gone, you're retired, and you look back and you think, hold on a minute, what have I done with my life? And what have I been waiting for all this time? For what reason and for what purpose? And have I been doing it to keep up with the Joneses? Have I got more stuff than I need? We acquire so many things. And I do think it gets to the point where we need the bigger house, we need the bigger car, because that's what society says is success. And I think we've become a bit countercultural and we've realized that actually success isn't that at all. So we just thought it'd be fun to have a bit of a conversation about that.
I think you said some really exciting things. Dreamiest. People will think dreamy. It's not dreamy because you're in London and I'm in Marrakech, by the way. That's not very dreamy. But you've come to some really interesting points that jog my memory. This isn't, or it hasn't been a quick decision. We didn't wake up one morning and go, goodness, I feel really good. Let's sell everything and bugger off to Morocco. This is a process and it's a mindset. And I don't want people to be necessarily awe-inspired by it, but I do want people to realize that that stability and that relentlessness of acquiring is actually what limits your mindset. One of the things that you spoke about clarity, confidence, energy, passion, and purpose. Our purpose for you and I wasn't actually to increase material stuff. And we discovered that when we were clearing out the bloody loft. I mean, it was so full of shit. It took us 2 months really to empty the house out. But the mindset is that we have found security almost in the insecurity that society tells you is secure, without that salary, without that commute, without the bricks and mortar that you're paying off around your neck all the time. And our security now comes from the freedom, the liberty of not having that. Would that be right? Am I speaking for me or for us?
I agree, yeah.
So I think that clarity and confidence actually comes from a mindset that there is more. If I keep going along this path of attaining, yes, we might end up with £1 million house and a couple of acres and a pony, but what does that actually give me in terms of my purpose, my clarity, my confidence, my energies, where my passion's going? And I think our passions became what we do in our businesses, certainly. People are our passion. Changing people's concept is our passion. But our energy levels came for something more than mowing the lawn, putting the bins out, walking the dog, doing the washing, and our energy became diverted from that. So this wasn't a decision that happened overnight. We spoke about it for a few months, didn't we? And luckily we were in alignment. Ladies and gentlemen, do not attempt to do this if one of you does not want to do it. It's hard enough stopping drinking when one person doesn't want to do it, never mind moving to another country for a few months. So it was a mindset and I think an incremental thought process.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really interesting because I do think when you've been through such a drastic shift anyway, I always talk about becoming alcohol free. It's not the being alcohol free piece. That isn't, yeah, let's stop drinking. A lot of people have stopped drinking, but they're not necessarily
Yeah.
living, they're not necessarily thriving. So for me, it's the what next. It's that being alcohol free is really a personal growth and transformation journey. That's
Mm.
fundamentally what it is. And if you wish to accept the challenge, I just thought Mission Impossible, if you're willing to accept the mission, let's look within, let's start really focusing on what matters. So, the what next for me when I work with clients on this is yes, I can help you with ditching drinking, but that is just the start. It's beginning to really understand who you are, what
Yeah,
you want life to be, what are your values, how do you actually manage emotions without the booze?
yeah.
How do you really set goals that are aligned to you and then create those goals
Because
and
we
work
prefix
towards
so
them?
much of our day, for me, when I was drinking, every occasion in the day, every event in the day was pricked by the identity of alcohol to the point eventually where it was fairly early in the morning that I would reward myself with something. But if you think about meals, and it's not the not drinking bit, and this is why your organization is why Thrive Alcohol Free is so successful, because the stopping drinking is the easy bit. Actually, the difficult bit is not associating your identity with those little events of the day. The Friday nights, the meeting friends, the going on an aeroplane, your first holiday. You and I booking all-inclusive holidays. We still book them, but strange that we used to book them because it would quench our thirst rather than we wouldn't have to worry about food. And a little bit like what we've done in becoming digital nomads, in many ways, you swap some of the drudgery of being in a house, a home that 9 out of 10 people live in that way. And we've swapped it for someone else. We've swapped it with rocking up to an Airbnb and discovering it's a shithole and then panicking because we don't want to live there for a month. Or we've swapped it with being in a city like we did in our first apartment in Marrakech where nobody spoke English and they only spoke French or Arabic. And so you do swap the stresses. You flying home on Wednesday, the plane's delayed, they wouldn't rent you a car, and then your whole day gets put out of kilter. So don't think we're sat in the sunshine here, because we're not. We're probably working harder than we worked when we were running and owning a home. But actually, the liberty of finding purpose and freedom overpowers that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, and I absolutely agree with that. I think it's just a different way of being, but it's so exciting at the same time because you do have this freedom, as you say, and obviously it's Thrive alcohol free, and it's all about freedom. And I've got the Finding Freedom retreat, which really helps people find that freedom. But it is, if you've been a listener of this podcast for a while, you know that I ask everyone, what does thriving alcohol free mean to you at the end of every episode? And this is episode 76. And I have to say, I'm sure probably half of the people that have responded have said it means freedom. And so there's a correlation here between ditching drinking and then discovering your purpose. Because everyone who's been on the podcast has got a story about how by taking a break from alcohol, stopping drinking, etc., their life has shifted. And so there must be something in it. We can't all be completely cray-cray.
There is absolutely
So,
something in it, yeah. And I think you summed it up when you talked about excitement and things. There is, I hate using the word because it triggers so much in me, but there is an authenticity, there is a genuine excitement because that excitement is based on something that is not hedonistic, it's not based on substance. There is a genuine joy because it's not based on rewarding yourself with a large gin. There's an authenticity, which means that it's from the core of your own values. So I think a big transition is what we're doing has come with authentic excitement, which actually we were lacking at home, even, dare I say, when we were both not drinking at home. With the clarity, with the sense of purpose, with the energy, came this realization that actually, where am I now seeking and finding genuine, authentic excitement, purpose, energy? And what am I plowing that into? So I think you're right. Thrive Alcohol Free, finding freedom, as your retreat is going to do, in one of the most exotic islands in the world. But yes, finding freedom is really important because you're right. A lot of people did what we did, stop drinking and find that energy and find that purpose and clarity, but actually are quite unsure what to do with it. What do I do now I found that? And for us, it was deciding that the four walls of our home and metaphorically just became too small for our energy, our purpose, our passion, our clarity. So be careful when you stop drinking because you might get into the lull of thinking nothing really has changed. But it's what you do. Thriving actually is where we're going to put the energies of everything that we've rediscovered about ourselves when we stop drinking. And we have happened to manifest that in very sunny Morocco.
yeah, yeah. So you've touched on it a little bit, the joys of being somewhere different. And I'm sure whoever's listening wants to probably hear a bit more about that. We landed in Morocco, in Marrakech, at the beginning of January, a few days before our
After a month in
anniversary, in
Egypt.
fact. After a month in Egypt, yeah, we spent a month in Egypt, and then we went to Marrakech, and we've been there since, and we plan to be there till at least the end of March. But we're also debating where to go next. So if you've got any ideas, let us know.
Mm.
But you might be thinking, well, why Marrakech? So it was a funny story. Why don't you tell the story, Nicholas?
Well, we were a bit unsure. We thought romantic places like Paris, Paris is very important to us. And we thought Spain, that's where we met, and we both fluent in Spanish. And then we sat down on the sofa and we watched a film, which name I can't remember. And it was based in Marrakech. And we both looked at each other and went, yeah, sod it, let's go to Marrakech. And that's it. That's what we did. We booked flights the next day to Marrakech and came straight here from Egypt via the UK for a few days. And it's been incredible. I can vouch that I think the world is a happier place in sunshine. I can genuinely say that. I also will expand on this, I'm sure, but I also think what an amazing place to come to for two people who, for me, relatively recently have stopped drinking, to come to an Islamic country where alcohol is such an issue because it's not readily available like the UK. And now I'm here, smack bang day 4 of Ramadan. But what an incredible, it's unintentionally, but the culture of a city so packed with history and tradition to be alcohol free and work and live in the way it does has been magical. Would you agree?
Yeah, it's a really special place. And I remember saying to you, to basically book somewhere off the back of a film, in hindsight, that wasn't really the most clever decision, really, on our part, but we can be a
With
bit
our clarity and
spontaneous.
confidence
We
and
can be a bit
purpose.
spontaneous.
Sorry, let's go to Marrakech.
Yeah, we can be spontaneous and make decisions and then hope they work out. But we originally thought we'd be there for a month. So we thought we'll book for a month and we'll see it. And actually, what's the worst that can happen in a month? But I remember landing, well, a lot could, I suppose, but I'm always optimistic. I'm always glass half full. I didn't really probably think about it too much. But I remember landing and I just had this real sense of peace come over me. I really felt like we were meant to be there. It was quite strange. And as you say, I think with it being an alcohol-free, mostly country, because most people are Muslim, again, what is fascinating, I just feel there's people are happier, they're a lot more calm.
Mm.
And a classic example of that is we had our local restaurant in the first place we lived, as Nicholas said. We were in a place called Mubarak. I always I'd always go to taxis, and the taxis here, these yellow taxis, and they'll say, "Where do you want to go?" And I'd always say the wrong name, so I'm sure Nicholas will correct me. But I'd say Mubarak and Mubaraka or whichever it is, the wrong one, and then they'd be like, "No, no, I don't know what you're talking about," and then they'd carry on driving. So, and I still can't remember the name of it. Anyway, we were.
Mubarak was the tyrannical leader.
So Mubraka, and there was a local restaurant there that we frequented quite a lot and just had lovely food. It was really chilled. And we'd go there for dinner and maybe go there for a coffee as well in the mornings. And in this restaurant, they played a lot of football. And so being from the UK,
On
football's a
TV. They
mass.
didn't actually play it, yeah.
No, yeah, they played it on TV. So in the UK, when I think about watching football matches in the past,
Mm,
you would go into a pub, and as soon as they scored, everyone would be jumping around, the beer would be
mm,
swilling everywhere, you'd end up with booze all over you.
mm,
Then people got aggressive and a bit nasty, and it was all just chaotic,
mm.
right? And that's what I associated watching football in the pub with. And then in
Yeah.
these restaurants, when in Marrakesh, they barely make a noise when a goal's scored. They're all drinking coffee. It's all very chilled. And it's just something that they're doing. It's not
Mm.
like this massive, angry, how
Yeah,
pissed can I
there's
get?
no aggression. There's no aggression apart from
Yeah.
unless you're behind the wheel of a car. There's very little aggression. But I tell you what I think has stood out for me, and in the same vein as that, is that without pubs, basically, without that pub drinking off license culture, one of the things that is apparent is that they have the most beautiful ability to be together in the day or in the evening, sat on curbs or benches or in parks or walking, and they've learned to spend time together without the purpose that we use the excuse of, you go out for a pint or do you want to come around for a bottle or should have a barbecue. They've created this amazing ability to waste time with each other without making the excuse of, let's have a catch up over a pint. And that is across all generations, across all sexes, across all age groups. And it really stands out as something that I think certainly we didn't do when we were even alcohol free. Our Rolodex shrank tremendously. Our invitations dried up quite quickly when we didn't drink because the meeting was based around. And so I love this culture, this wasting time with each other culture in a really authentic and genuine way.
Yeah, yeah. We were talking about that the other day when we saw those people just sat chatting, and it's a cafe culture. I don't know how they all drink espresso at 10, 11 o'clock at night, but that's that's what they tend to do, sitting in these cafe restaurants. And a lot of places are cafe restaurants. They're not either a cafe or a restaurant, and they tend
That's
to just
right.
be open all day.
Yeah.
And it amazed me because there was one evening I think we needed to get food and it was quite late. We'd both been on calls till quite late, working with people in the US. And we thought, right, where we're going to get some food. And this was early on when we didn't really know. And we went out and we were surprised that everywhere was still open. And this was probably
Yeah.
10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and you could get food. And our little local, I say supermarkets, they're little shops really. They were all open.
Yeah.
Everything stays open till quite late.
Yeah, it's a more sociable environment. I wouldn't necessarily want to walk down the back streets of King's Cross at 11 o'clock at night, but walking through the streets of Marrakesh at 11 o'clock at night, and I don't want to go on about Marrakesh particularly. I think it's a culture, like so many countries, that has learnt to do things that aren't based around a particular activity, a culture that we call it in the UK of alcohol. So for us to make the transition as becoming digital nomads and ending up in a place like Morocco on the back of a Netflix film has been an incredible introduction to living this life and not feeling like it's a first event like a holiday or a first event like I'm going to slip out to a pub because you just can't do it. And that's been tremendously brilliant for us. I think the country's been very hospitable particularly to our needs as infant digital nomads.
Yeah, and it has everything. I think that's the other thing I was pleasantly surprised at. I really don't think, the more I'm thinking about it, the more I think we just didn't think this through at all. We didn't, we didn't really
But
think
like most things in
about
our life, darling,
it.
you'll be listening to us people in 3 years' time going, why did we ever do it? Absolutely ridiculous. Stay at home and buy a house.
Oh, this. So I was thinking about the practicalities of it because I think a lot of people might be thinking, well, what is Marrakesh like? Is Marrakesh somewhere you would stay? I'll go into some mundane things, but I was so impressed with the supermarket. There's Marjan, the supermarket, massive supermarket, which we used to walk to from where we first stayed, and then it was literally around the corner where we next stayed. But you walk into this supermarket, it's so clean and tidy, and it sells absolutely everything from clothes to household goods. And then we talk about sustainability and recycling all the time. Well, we don't do it. How much packaging do we have in all the supermarkets, in Tesco's, in Sainsbury's, and Waitrose? So much packaging with everything. There's this wonderful part of the supermarket where they have rice and pasta, and then olives and various things. And it all comes out of big containers. And then you just use these paper bags to take everything. Then you get them weighed, and that is sustainable. It's not all the plastic that is killing the earth. They thought it through. And then when you go to the fish counter and they've got beautiful fish and then lobsters in a tank and then the meat on the counter. And then, of course, my favorite, which are all the desserts that they have puddings and things that you can get all these cakes and
Deluxe
tarts and
cakes.
deluxe cakes and tarts. But it's all there. And you think you're in a place like Marrakesh, but then you have the other extreme where you go into the Medina and you've got like what has been a tradition for hundreds of years, and your senses are just hit with the tastes and the sounds and the smells. And you see the snake charmers,
Yeah.
and then you've got spices, and then you've got people haggling and selling things, and then you've got all the food stalls, and which I wouldn't recommend eating. I probably shouldn't say that out loud.
Street food.
But the
No, don't
street
touch it. No,
food.
don't recommend it. Don't touch it. God, no, like a road through. But the ingenuity of people along the streets, they're lined with orange trees, aren't they? The beautiful, big, succulent oranges
Yeah,
on them.
everywhere.
And families go and pick these oranges off the trees that are just on the public highway. And then they'll put them in a barrow and then they'll sell them to people and people will buy them. How ingenious is that? You couldn't contemplate doing something like that in the Western developed world of the UK. You couldn't do it. There'd be taxes and legislation and forms to fill out and HMRC ramming you. But here, everybody, even the plastic bottles and water bottles, people take out the bins themselves, strap hundreds of them to the back of their mopeds, and then go and reuse them. So the ingenuity that people have, this ethic, really, that anybody can do, and hustle, yes, but everybody can do, there is something to do. I spend a lot of my time dribbling on about welfare state and the government, but I think there is something around the indigenous and intrinsic desire to do that I've loved here as well.
Yeah, there's definitely an entrepreneurial spirit, I would describe it as. So
That's
being
very polite of you.
entrepreneurs ourselves, I think it is. I think it is. It's that let's make
Industrious.
money out of whatever it is we can do. Let's be industrious and let's create. There's so many little shops that are really next door to each other and they're all selling similar things. So you
Exactly
can
the
just
same
pick
thing.
which one you want to go to, but they're all earning a living because they're all there. And then there are lots of barbers as well. There seem to be barber like everywhere.
Yes.
And hairdressers, beauty salons. I've got an amazing place. I go and do my nails. We had a pedicure the other day, didn't we? And that's everything you need is there. And then, of course, you've got the part of Marrakesh, which is quite touristy, which is obviously the Medina area. And then there's
You can
another
go to
part
your Zara's and
where
yeah,
you've
you
got
can go to,
Zara, H&M,
yeah,
exactly. That's what I was about to
yeah,
say. Go for it. Yeah, H&M, Zara, Starbucks.
yeah.
They're all
McDonald's,
McDonald's,
KFC.
KFC.
Yeah, you got
They're
all
all
that.
there.
Yeah.
So it's a huge array of things. And as you say, then you've got the Atlas Mountains,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, we probably need to talk about the Atlas Mountains, bouldering up the Atlas Mountains
Stunning. Stunning. With our daughter.
to see the waterfall. That was
Stunning. I
fun.
mean, the only unfortunate thing was I was in my carpet slippers because we had hired the driver thinking, oh, this will be a nice little trip. And he dropped us off in the middle of this road and then said, oh, here's your guide. And we were like, how long is the walk? And he said, oh, it's only about an hour or so. It was an hour or so. It was vertical. An hour's vertical walk through water, over boulders. And I was in my mules and my dress trousers. But it was well worth it. It was beautiful. I'm sure we posted some pictures. People can find some pictures somewhere about it.
Yeah,
What do
we
you
saw that.
think, interestingly, because we don't get this opportunity to talk very often, what do you think it's done for us as a couple now that we are clear and energized and passionate and purposeful?
It's a really good question. I think we've always been very on the same page. We've been very lucky. I'm very grateful. And I want to just caveat that because I know a lot of people who have stopped drinking who may not have had the support from their partner that they would have liked or are going through at the moment, and they're not finding they can actually stop drinking because they worry about what their partner's going to think and what will
Mm,
happen. And the people that have done my 21-day challenge, that is also a big concern in the early days because they suddenly realize they're getting this clarity and energy, and then they're watching their partner just sit there watching Netflix, and
sleeping
they
in the
worry
chair for
about
somebody
what
else.
and drink, yeah, and what drinking, and they worry about what's going to happen. So
Mm.
I feel very blessed and grateful that we seem to somehow do that. And you were so supportive when I stopped drinking
That's because I was
that I,
pissed.
that I never felt like it was an issue. And then when you stopped, we seem to have grown together. And I think that's how we've managed to stay together for so many years, because at every stage we've gone through, as you can imagine, life isn't all beer and skittles. We've been through a lot together over the past 25 years nearly.
Mm,
And life hasn't been easy at points, but I think what it's done is it's just strengthened that for me.
mm,
And
mm,
I think I've become a lot more dependent on you as well. I think whereas when I was in my career, I was very independent, even though we've always been, we've been together that long.
yeah.
I feel like I was probably quite independent. It was always me going off and traveling and doing and
Me
sort of
washing and
climbing the
ironing.
ladder, and well, not quite, but yeah, climbing the ladder up the wrong wall, but climbing a ladder,
Mm,
and then realizing it was the wrong wall. But I think I've become a lot more content
mm,
with allowing you to really take the lead in a way to just do things. And I've been more backseaty in this situation, in this digital nomad travel situation, because I think it was you that sort of said or suggested the Marrakech thing. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And you've been organizing a lot of things, and it's been quite nice to feel we're a real team
mm. Our
and that
world
it's,
became very small. You know,
mm,
people, we didn't arrive here with that holiday feeling, did we, really? We arrived
no,
here with a very purposeful, driven feeling of
mm,
expanding our client network and raising the glass ceiling on possibilities. So we didn't
mm,
arrive here with bikinis and shorts. We arrived
mm,
here with shirts and trousers type thing. But I think our world became very small. It became us. You know, our
yeah,
daughter's at boarding school, and it became you and I. And we didn't
mm,
have somebody to nip round to and give ourselves 10 minutes, 5 minutes. But actually, that's been really exciting and powerful
mm,
and reassuring and unifying for us.
mm,
You know, I think that we revisited that initial emotion maybe when we both weren't drinking, walking into
mm,
events, or we both weren't drinking, going to an all-inclusive holiday, we both weren't drinking, going to a wedding. And that
mm,
same mustering of mutual leaning on each other has manifested
mm,
itself again. So I think it's a really important aspect of that transition from drinking and then to one of us drinking, then to both of us not drinking. That is a
mm,
huge journey in itself, particularly the amount I was drinking. And
mm,
we've gone through that exact same reconnection, that exact same mutual support now in this sort of journey into Marrakech. So again, this isn't for the faint-hearted. This isn't something you say, right, we've stopped drinking. We both stopped last week. Let's piss off abroad because it won't work like that. It works with a really intentional, our world is going to shrink. We don't have neighbours to nip round to. You can't jump in the car and go to your wonderful parents and sit there and be fed and watered. We have to do that ourselves now. So I think there has been a transition of relationship role that probably has enhanced our marriage, I would certainly say.
Hmm. Yeah, I'd agree. And I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for the experience. And I'm glad that we've been on the same page the whole way through. And so I suppose another practicality, let's go on to keep going on these practicalities because people are probably thinking, well, how do you do it? So I've talked about the mundanity of supermarkets and things. Traveling around, it's been taxis, and actually taxis are reasonable. But it's so interesting because again, you realize you're a local when you realize which taxis to get and which taxis not to get, because they're the tourist taxis, which charge a lot more no matter where you're going, and then they're the normal taxis. And so again, we realized we were locals. We were like, no, we're not getting in that taxi. We're getting in this taxi.
Getting
And
in the
then,
right taxi, you can then still haggle the price. When he goes, oh, it's 150, you're like, no, pull the other one, mate. We know it's only 50. So yeah, we've learned to blend in. Although when we
yeah,
were in
yeah,
Egypt, everyone thought I was Egyptian, and now we're in Morocco, everyone thinks I'm Moroccan. So until
yes.
I limit myself to after salam alaikum, then they realise that I'm not Moroccan, and they can police us.
That has been fun. You've got the jalaba as well to prove that you are. You
Thank
are.
you.
So a jalaba is like this long coat that everyone was wearing at the beginning when we arrived because it was quite cool in the evenings. And so my husband decided to go out and get one for himself. So when he walked around in it, everyone just assumed he was Moroccan, which was quite funny until they saw me in my big puffer jacket.
Then I thought I was a sinful Moroccan. Dirty Moroccan with a Western lady.
Absolutely. Exactly, exactly. And then it's been really interesting working as well, hasn't it?
Mm.
Because I would say the other thing that's blown me away is, obviously Wi-Fi is really good, especially in our apartment at the moment. It's amazing. In the last apartment we were in, the Wi-Fi was really rubbish. So you're probably thinking, well, how do you sort of work in a place like that? And as we said, this isn't a holiday. This is very much we're just working and living and doing what we would do wherever we were in the world. And that's what being a digital nomad is. And then obviously you get to explore these new places as well, and we had a lovely day, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But I think for me, what I've loved as well is discovering these co-working spaces where
Mm.
you can go in and you can basically work in an office or hire a meeting room or a phone booth or whatever for a couple of hours or for the whole day. And then you see and meet other digital nomads. And so the whole co-working space, we're really lucky we've got it. The one that's close to it, the one that we've been going to is now only like 15-minute walk, 10 minutes really, maybe less,
Yeah.
walk away. So we can pop in there and we can work there if we don't want to work in the apartment. Luckily, the apartment's big enough for us to both work in separate areas and do
And the
that. But
balcony. I like
and
working.
then we've got a lovely balcony as well, yeah. And the Wi-Fi gets to there as well, which is fun. So from a practical perspective, it does feel like we really landed on our feet with Marrakech being the
Definitely.
first full place that we did. We did Egypt before, as we said, but that was slightly different. But yeah, you might be thinking, well, do you really work? And I think one of the things we also talked about was obviously we need to work. We like working, we want to work and help people. And so we are absolutely working. But what we're also doing is we're able to then have days where we can explore. And so Friday was a classic example. We had a lovely day on Friday
Oh,
where
yes, we did.
we ended up going to the Jardin Majoli, which is celebrating its 100th birthday, and it's the garden of Yves Saint Laurent and Pierre Berger,
Yeah.
their home. And it's a beautiful garden with lots of cacti and flowers and ponds and beautiful palm trees, just a really serene place.
Mm.
And we were actually having a bit of a day of it, weren't we? We weren't in the best mood with each other that morning, and we ended up going to this garden. And we'd always said that the Friday we were going to take the afternoon off, and we were going to go and have a wander around the garden, the Yves Saint Laurent Museum, and then the Berber House as well. And so we ended up going into this garden, and it was amazing, wasn't it? There was just
It's
this sense
beautiful.
of calm. And another thing I talk about a lot is spending time in nature. And
Mm,
I love it. And I love going out and being in nature. We see some beautiful stars, and the moon is so bright in Marrakech. And by the end of it, just walking around the garden, we were both like, oh, why do we get
yeah.
so caught up with such triviality? Spending time in nature completely shifts the way you are and your intention and what you're thinking, and it dissolves issues and problems. And
Mm,
so we wandered around this beautiful garden, and then we went to the Berber Museum where it's a lot of the history. And that was just really fascinating to see how people have been living for like hundreds of years.
mm.
And then we went to the Yves Saint Laurent Museum, and I remembered suddenly how much I love fashion as well, and how I'd sort of lost that as a passion. So you may have seen an Instagram post that I posted earlier in the week where I was on the catwalk, my one and only catwalk debut.
Amazing.
And Nicholas was actually the compere for the auction that we did afterwards, which was quite fun.
The pissed compare.
Well, yes, let's just say flowers and vases went everywhere, and it was all quite amusing. But but I again forgot how much I like fashion. So that's something I'm going to start exploring again. Ended up going to the Naomi exhibition in the Victorian Albert Museum when I landed in the UK this weekend. So I had a bit of a fashion weekend. But again, having that time, we then ended up meeting Kate, who was on episode
Yeah.
74. And so she happened, sobriety, Kate underscore sobriety fitness. You can go and look her up. But she was episode 74. So feel free to go back and listen to her episode. But we met up with her and her husband, who happened to be in Marrakesh on Friday night. And we went out for a drink and a gorgeous dinner.
They
And
flew into
again,
Marrakesh and we took them from an Indian.
yes. They come from Canada though, and they said that where they were in Canada, they had to travel quite far to go to an Indian restaurant. So they really loved the fact that we took them to an Indian
They were
restaurant.
the first people, in fact, since leaving the UK that we had intentionally met up with that weren't family or returning back to the UK in our environment here in Marrakesh. And it was the most beautiful evening. They were lovely. And we sat, I don't know, 4 hours. We were chatting away with them like
Yeah.
we'd known them forever. So yeah, that was a wonderful
Mm. Yeah, yeah. And it did make me realize that we've probably experienced Marrakesh now to the point where we could say, having lived there for 2.5 months, we are quite locals, really. So it feels like we knew where to take them and what to do, and we were able to give them some tips for when they were doing the rest of their time there. And so it's a really great thing. It's a really good opportunity. And so if we come back to the start, well, first of all, this is what gaining clarity, confidence, energy, passion, and purpose could do for you. And we have created our own dreamiest life that we've been destined for. And so many things have happened since I stopped drinking 4.5 years ago, and you 2.5 years ago. But it's incredible when you're intentional and when you just take those steps, not really knowing what the outcome is going to be or what's going to end up happening, but you trust that everything will come together and work together. And I
There is a
think,
natural fear in humans of uncertainty, and the uncertainty often breeds paralysis. Because I don't know, therefore I can't do. And
mm,
the transition of us locking the front door and getting on that plane, we felt countercultural. And those nearest and dearest to us, brothers, sisters, parents, uncles, aunts, friends, relatives, were all very, we're not sure. They weren't there offering advice to stay or go, but they were like, we're not getting the thread of confidence, clarity, purpose, energy. So don't let the uncertainty of anything paralyze you into not doing anything. I think would be a good message.
yeah. And as harsh as it might sound, whatever you are not changing, you're choosing. And so if you want to stop drinking, unless you make a step towards that, maybe do my 21-day challenge or just take a break for 21 days and explore it. If you decide not to do that, well, you're choosing that. If you
Absolutely.
decide that you stop drinking and you know you've got all this energy and you've potentially got something that you know deep down you want to do, but then you're going to stay in your 9 to 5, or you're not even going to take a step towards potentially doing that thing that you know is on your heart, you're choosing that. And we've not done this without having our own coaches, without doing programs, without learning about ourselves, particularly me through human design, although you've also gone through your human design. I think it's all about that personal growth and transformation and asking for help and working with people who can help you along the way. And when you expose yourself to that, you then get that expanded view of what's possible. Because when you
Mm.
do the same thing and see the same thing, it was Einstein who said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting it to change. Well, as soon as you keep doing that, nothing changes, and it is insane. And we're not saying here everyone should stop drinking and do something completely different. We're saying you have the choice to create the dreamiest life that you're destined for. And so
And
we
even
wanted,
before that, you have the choice to make those small incremental changes. It doesn't have to be huge, it doesn't have to be migration, it doesn't have to be doing anything that involves anything physical. But if you're not sure how to change it, then start with a small incremental change. Just start with something. It doesn't even have to be 21 days. Just have a call with somebody like you. Just sit
mm,
down and say, I'm not sure I want to stop drinking, but I am sure I don't want to drink as much as I am. Start with the smallest incremental change,
mm,
because that's how the snowball effect starts. The purpose, the clarity, the energy, the confidence doesn't come with a light switch flick. It comes with those small baby steps that say, okay, I can afford to fail at this today, this small baby step. Don't look at the next year or the next 2 years. Do a step that if you fail, you don't have to beat yourself up and throw yourself off a cliff about. You fail and you just get off bending knee and start again. So my message would be, if you're not changing it, you're choosing it. But don't start with huge changes. Start with something, just something different. Just something different. Just start with changing the ringtone on your phone so it doesn't trigger some association. Start with changing your alarm time to 15 minutes earlier so that you give yourself 15 minutes to come to. Start with those tiny changes before you choose change.
I fundamentally agree. And I don't believe there's any such thing as failure. I think it's all learning and feedback. And so, again, if you go in with the mentality that I can't fail, I'm only learning and I'm getting feedback, that also shifts your perspective. So,
Mm.
again, I think taking those steps, absolutely agree. And I was speaking to someone earlier about the fact that we put so much pressure on ourselves to achieve so much in a really short space of time. The journey we've been on, this has been a journey of 4.5 years. And I think we all want to see things change and happen in weeks, in days, in months.
Mm.
And that just isn't reality. It's not
Mm.
reality to think that. It can be. I'm sure there might be someone who's done it, but the majority of people have taken those incremental steps, as Nicholas said. We have taken those steps where it's been a tiny thing that didn't seem very big at the time, but has led to this life that we were not expecting. If you'd asked me 4.5 years ago, where would you be in 4.5 years? This was not what I was expecting. And another minor example, I suppose, is I remember in January 2021, just after I stopped drinking, so I was a couple of months alcohol free, I said I'd do yoga, and I did the 30-day yoga thing. And I've done yoga every night since then. And I wake up some days, like everybody else, and think, oh, I put on weight, or I'm not looking good, or whatever. I don't feel great. But actually, the reality is it's just my mindset. I'm in a bad mindset because actually, me doing yoga every night for the past 4.5 years has kept me at a certain weight, at a certain level fit of fitness. And that is just incremental steps of 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour a day,
That you can't actually fail by not doing.
which you can't fail by not doing. And I say I've done it every day for 4.5 years. Of course, there's been the odd day I haven't done it, but just keeping that consistency compounds. And I do believe that by intentionally setting goals, intentionally working with a consultant or coach to help you to get to where you want to go to is really important. And it will help you step away from what you see as the norm and expand your mindset and realize that everything you need is inside you and you are more powerful, more capable than you can even imagine.
Mm.
And if you have a thought or a desire, it's already done. You
Mm.
just have to go and get it. And
Yeah.
so I hope that's been a helpful episode. I'm so delighted that you said you'd do a second one with me.
A pleasure.
And
It's a pleasure. It's an amazing journey we're on. We're living with uncertainty because we don't know what is coming next. But let me tell you, the mindset is about we are in control of what's coming next. We're not going to be a victim of what comes next. We're going to be a victor of what comes next. And although we don't know what that is, then we're open-minded enough to manage it, love it, make it what we want it to be. So yeah, it's been a joy to be on your podcast for a second time, an unprecedented returning guest.
oh, well, thank you. And how can people get in touch with you, Nicholas?
Get onto the website, www.eagletransformationalcoaching.com. And I'm on LinkedIn or TikTok or Facebook or everything else. Yeah.
It's great. I'll put your details in the show notes if anyone wants to contact you.
I'm very happy.
And so I can't end the episode without asking you, and I can't remember what you originally said, though, and I didn't check it before we jumped on, but what does thriving alcohol-free mean to you? You can give your answer now, and then we'll go back and see whether it's the same answer.
Well, I know what my answer was last time,
Well done.
and people can go back and have a look at it. But I think this amount of time since drinking, I think thriving alcohol free now, I think that is the key thing, is that I feel very limitless. I know when you asked me the first time, and that was 2023, and I'd only stopped a little bit before then. And I was excited about being alcohol free. I could see the vision of being alcohol free. I'm now living in the limitless of being alcohol free. Yes, all the energy and the sleep and all that is there. But I think there is a fundamental change in mindset to I am now living limitless. So that's a 3-year journey. And that doesn't mean it's all bells and whistles and roses, but it does mean that there is actually no limit. If you're learning, if you're leaning in, if you're leveraging your authenticity and know who you are and what you are, then you begin to say, if I want to do it, then I can do it. And I'm loving that at the moment. I think I'll run out of energy of old age more than I'll run out of what I want to do next or where I want to drag you next.
Yeah. And so that's it, I think, in terms of this episode, but we will keep you updated. We've no idea where we're going next. So if you have any good ideas in terms of where we should head to next, we're probably going to do another,
Turn
as I
of the
said,
globe.
we'll be here for another month or so, and then we'll be moving on. So send us your ideas. I'd love to hear from you. If you have found this episode useful, then please get in touch with myself or Nicholas. Head to at Thrive Alcohol Free on Instagram. It would be lovely if you could send Nicholas an email or drop him an Instagram DM as well, just to say what you've got out of it. But yeah, I really wanted this episode to just inspire you, to give you a different viewpoint, and to really understand why I do what I do and why I really love helping clients gain clarity, confidence, energy, passion, and purpose so that they can create their dreamiest life, because that's what we've done. And I feel like we've been on this journey so that I can fulfill my purpose and help others to do the same things. So if you would like to get in touch and you would like to work with me one-to-one or join the 21-day challenge or do a human design session with me, then I'd love to hear from you. And I hope you have the most wonderful week. So thank you so much, Nicholas. And
Thank you.
I will see you in London tomorrow.
See you tomorrow in London. Have a good night's sleep, darling.
Lots of love. Take care.
Bye bye.